What is up, beautiful bastards? Welcome to round number 2 in Nerdgasm. I am the host, Black Legend Brooklyn Vail, here joined today by my co-commissioner, the great Cody Newberry. Cody, you're giggling, which means I did something. But what did I do?
No, it's just like I saw the gears turning in your head of what to say next, and it was the easiest delivery. But you know what? It's not a show unless you screw up something along the way. So we're keeping pace. Today should be a very interesting match here. I have a really good friend and an asshole. So I'll let you decide on which one's which. But hopefully it turns out to be an incredible match because both of these, I don't think Tim got a real chance to shine in his last match. And Jim was an asshole just like he is normally in debate. So we'll see how it counteracts.
Yeah. Tim versus Jim. I'm actually very, very, very intrigued for this match. You know, Jim very blunt and very forward, and like you said, Cody, Tim hasn't really got a chance to show the full true power. But we're not alone as well. We have a third judge making their Nerdgasm debut. You can find him question writing over at Movie Warzone. It's Brian Michaels. Brian, how do you feel today to be judging for the first time? Tim versus Jim. How do you feel about this matchup?
You know, I don't know what to think of this matchup because I'm kind of new to Nerdgasm. You know, I've been doing stuff around the trivia leagues, and I've done some judging on a different debate show. But first time here on Nerdgasm, I'm curious to see what these guys got to bring.
All right. Well, let's go to our competitors very quick, starting off with the higher-ranked competitor of one Jimothy Green. Jim, you defeated Sandy in the one of the matches that did not go to the final question. You are now going up against Tim, who has the only knockout, the only KO from round 1. But how do you feel about going up against brother Tim?
The good brother Tim. I've never seen him other than that one time that Drake and I victoriously destroyed his and Robert's chances in There Will Be Trivia team tournament back in, I think that was like 2 years ago at this point, because who knows, that tournament took forever. But you know, I respect the good brothers of Robert and brother Tim. So and I really don't like doing debate stuff, but you guys keep telling me, oh, you're in the tournament now, so you're gonna keep playing debate stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll play brother Tim now. So yeah, I'm just ready to go for this one.
Jim applying the mantra of the great rapper Kendrick Lamar and of being humble. Very surprised, actually. We'll see how this pays off.
He also did the Ryan thing. Was like, I don't know why I'm here debating, but I'm here debating. Hopefully I get a win, even though we already got a win. But no, sorry. That was Ryan from last match. If you didn't watch it already, please go back and watch that because Ryan was so confused of where he resided. It was so funny.
And on to your opponent, your challenger, the great brother Tim. Brother Tim, you came out guns a-blazing, getting a KO against Brian Fernandez. But how do you feel going up against Jim?
I'm excited. I feel like I didn't really get a chance to really show what I got that last match. I think it was a good experience, though, and Jim is a good competitor. I've watched his previous matches, so I'm not going to take this lightly, but I'm excited, and let the best Jim or Tim win there. Let's do it.
All right. Well, the way the show works is that the competitors drafted from 8 random categories within the Fandom movie and TV world. Once they drafted categories, we provided questions. They then drafted answers. Each question will begin with a 1-minute opening argument, followed by 5 minutes of freeform, then a 45-second closing argument. This is first to 3, so first 3 points will advance on to the semifinals. Only rules: don't be a dickhead, and no touching of the hair or face. But let's get right into it with question number 1. You guys drafted from Marvel and Netflix. The question that we gave you is, who is the worst villain in the Marvel and Netflix universe? Jim, you are the higher-ranked competitor. You will be going first in this one. You have 1 minute. Time begins whenever you start talking.
Okay, so the person that I am nominating in my first run of talking is I'm picking Diamondback from Marvel's Luke Cage. And if you're wondering who that is, no, it is not Mahershala Ali. It's the shitty one that comes after they kill off Mahershala Ali like halfway through the first season. So Diamondback from Luke Cage.
Cool. Tim, you got a minute. Tell us who is the worst villain of Marvel Netflix. Your time begins whenever you start talking.
So for my worst Netflix Marvel villain, originally I had picked someone, I'm not going to mention who, but upon watching Punisher Season 2, which it came out last month, I've changed to Billy Russo, or Jigsaw. This character is so terrible. Starts off really promising with the flashbacks with Frank in Season 1, but then over the course of the end of Season 1 and all of Season 2, he's degraded into a whining character who just beats this therapist woman for no reason, and then, sorry for spoilers, but goes out like a wuss at the end of the season. He's a terrible villain. There could have been so much more because of the relationship with Frank, but they just completely wasted it and squandered an entire 26 episodes, including Season 1, on other stuff.
All right. Well, note to self: be sure to finish Season 2 before Marvel Next questions, because I'm on episode 5 right now. But enough about that. Go to 5 minutes of freeform. No filibustering. Don't be a dickhead. And just a 1 minute verbal warning. But just ignore me whenever I say that. So let's get it on.
Okay, so I'm gonna just debate that, Tim, you're straight up wrong. Billy Russo is actually kind of awesome. In the first season, obviously, he's just like the charming Billy Russo, and he gets to Madani, he bangs her.
Yep.
For Season 1, Brooklyn. He gets with Madani, and he uses that to get to Frank, and then you find out the whole backstory, evil stuff. See, so you're
not arguing that stuff's not good.
Well, yeah. So Billy Russo at least has a full season of being pretty good. Diamondback has 0 episodes of being anything worth of anything. He's just the whole story of, it's Willis Stryker's his brother. And it's like, we just had Mahershala Ali in like right before his prime being like super awesome as Cornell Stokes and like being mega awesome. And now it's like, now we have Diamondback.
I don't disagree with you that Mahershala Ali was the better villain in that season, but you get so much. There's so much to play with Diamondback being related to Luke Cage, and like you have that emotional weight to the character, and so when they're finally battling out for the heart of Harlem at the end, you feel that.
No, you don't.
In season 2 of the Punisher, Billy Russo starts off. You think, his face is going to be all messed up. He's going to be Jigsaw. There's like 3 scratches on his face, and he literally turns into hanging out in an apartment and literally just like screaming about Frank and punching this woman in the face until Frank just walks up to him and shoots him, and that's it. There's no final battle. He's just completely wasted. Season 1, he was built up, and then just completely wasted.
You didn't need a final battle with Billy Russo and Jigsaw. I'll just call him Jigsaw for the rest of the time. You don't need a final battle with Jigsaw and Frank in Season 2 because they already had their final battle in Season 1. So the Billy Russo Jigsaw Season 2, we'll call him whatever. Billy Russo in Season 2 is much more about playing on the psychology aspects of his character with the turning of Krista Dumont, she's the doctor or whatever, and then also Madani. So that's what the whole time they putting up to Billy versus Madani, because we already had Billy versus Frank in their final battle. So now it's building.
But then why put so much time into the conflict between Billy Russo and Frank? They spend so much time in Season 2 building up the fact that they're going to meet and they're going to fight and it's going to be this thing, and then it just turns out to be nothing. And he was such a powerful, like strong, conniving character in Season 1, and then all of a sudden he just becomes this, whiny person who doesn't do anything. He just sits there the whole time and cries, whereas Diamondback at least has some real motivation behind his character, and when he's fighting Luke Cage at the end, you really feel that because Luke has been struggling the whole season about who he is, what his role in Harlem is supposed to be, that when it finally comes out that, oh my god, like this is his brother that he has to fight to take down for the heart of Harlem, that carries weight. Billy Russo doesn't carry any weight in any of the Punisher things, save for the flashbacks in Season 1. Cool fight fights in season 1. I like his character in season 1, but in the end, he turns out to be a forgettable character overall.
No, I buy Billy Russo and Frank's relationship as being brothers more than Diamondback and Luke Cage. Diamondback is just like, I'm your secret brother, and now my whole plan is to like defame your name, and it's like, what? This is stupid. Like, we just had to like kind of rehash on Mahershala Ali. His plan is awesome. He wants to be the big guy in Harlem, and I don't like Luke Cage, and we're gonna fight. Classic stuff. But then, like, the whole time is just, you go with Diamondback, all of his shit is like, it's just like, okay, he did that, kind of cool. Like, every good episode of Luke Cage has Mahershala Ali in it, and none of them have Eric LeRae Harvey, who is...
I completely disagree. I think the finale, the finale of the show, the fact that they're duking it out again over Harlem is really, really powerful. And again, Cottonmouth, like, he doesn't really, like, again, yeah, there's that, like, anger towards Luke Cage, but he doesn't really do anything. He kind of tells people to do stuff. At least Diamondback, you know, comes in and he knows what he wants. He wants to defeat Luke Cage, and he does it. Billy Russo claims he wants to kill Frank the whole, like, second half of the season 2 when he remembers everything about Frank, and then he just doesn't do anything. He just sits there and then just gets taken out like a wuss at the end. He doesn't do anything. At least Diamondback is doing things.
Well, just because you're doing things and doing them poorly doesn't give you points. I think, but it's like I said.
But Luke Cage is a better written show too.
Time is up. Time is up.
All right. Excellent. Good job, guys. Nice back and forth. We now move into the closing arguments. Tim, we're going to start with you first. 45 seconds. Time begins whenever you're done.
I think overall, Luke Cage is, you know, the better written show. Diamondback is the better written character. So even if his motivations aren't 100% clear to everybody, he still has a very, you know, like, powerful arc with Luke as the brother. And just the writing for Billy Russo and the way they take his character is completely pointless. He turns into a nothing character in a forgettable show and a forgettable season of Marvel Netflix.
Okay. Jim, 25 seconds.
Diamondback is a completely forgettable villain. They spend the first entire half of the season like saying, "Oh, Diamondback's coming," and then you get there and his plan is stupid. His suit at the end is stupid. Nothing makes sense with him. Billy Russo, at least, super good. We agree, super good through season 1. Season 2, it's less in your face about it because Frank is off with Amy, protecting her the entire time and fighting the religious hitman guy. And his story in season 2 is about facing off with Madani and coming to that final battle with Madani in which she shoots him, and then Frank goes and finishes him off later, whatever. But it's, season 2 Billy, not as great as season 1 Billy, but he still does that. You see him still do that same thing to Dr. Dumont and then have that final confrontation with Madani.
Time. All right. Good job, guys. Very back and forth. For me, consistently throughout the time was like, this person's ahead, this person's ahead. I'm gonna go to Cody first, and then we'll see how this goes.
Okay. So I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. But I know how to judge debate, so that's where I broke it down of who painted the picture of why the person is the worst. I think what I got from Jim mainly, I think Jim pointed out really good things. That the replacement for Diamondback wasn't as strong, especially because they didn't give him a lot to do. But I thought the counteracting of what Tim threw out pretty much is how they handled him and how he got killed off, like just nothing, and there was no battle, there's no nothing. And I'm not saying it has to have a battle, but I just didn't hear a counteracting of why that made that character, the conclusion was better. I wanted that as a rebuttal. So I would give Tim the first point on this one, but again, we have 3 judges, so I may be in the minority.
Well, all right, Brian, I'll go to you next. Based on your side, you get your point 1.
Well, you know, I thought this was a good topic for me to judge for my first time here because the Netflix Marvel shows are not something I've gotten into. So I have not watched either of these shows, so I cannot have any bias and just judge it purely on the argument. I thought round 1, was a little odd because Jim kind of just said, okay, this is who I'm picking, not Mahershala Ali, but the other one, and didn't really give any argument in round 1, whereas Tim did. But then in the debate in the second round, I think that Tim did a good job of explaining why, how he thought that Jigsaw was, he's just turning into this whiner, and how it was very anticlimactic, and Punisher just shot him, and it was kind of just over, nothing happened. Jim, I thought, spent most of his time just saying Diamondback isn't Mahershala Ali. There's a lot of, after Mahershala Ali, it was this. Without Mahershala Ali, it was this. And he was a big drop-off for disappointment after Mahershala Ali, as opposed to saying why that specific villain was bad. So I'm going to give my point to Tim.
Right. Well, Tim gets the first point. I actually would have agreed with both of you. I think the general theme for both competitors was this villain was not as good as insert villain here, and I think Tim did the better argument of selling me why Billy Russo was lackluster in season 2 and how the promise just wasn't there. I think Jim's biggest problem was that about 2 minutes in, he realized I got to start critiquing Diamondback, because there's a lot of attack on Billy and not really supporting his own. So Tim does get the first point. We now move into question number 2. Which is going to be in the realm of the powerest of Rangers, the Power Rangers. And the question they gave them was as follows. Who is the best Red Ranger in all of Power Rangers? Tim, you're going to be going first. 45 seconds. The floor is yours.
Okay, so the question is best Red Ranger ever, and what I decided to do might be seeming like a bold choice for some, but I believe is the correct answer, and I'm picking Dacre Montgomery, who played the Red Ranger Jason in the 2017 reboot Saban's Power Rangers, which came out in March. Dacre Montgomery does a really good job of a pretty much unknown cast, other than Elizabeth Banks and Bryan Cranston as some of the other characters, but like as far as the Rangers go, he does a really good job of leading this cast of unknowns and really making you believe that he is the Red Ranger. And I'll get more into what I like about him after I hear from Jim.
All right. Well, Jim, floor is yours. Minute to tell us why you believe which Ranger you picked is the best one.
So I'll set the stage of Power Rangers Wild Force. They're all about to load up on the fucking Delta ship from Power Rangers in Space to go forever red, fight everybody. And Tommy is pretty upset because there's one guy missing from this whole team, and it's the original that I thought Tim would pick, Austin St. John's Jason, the original, the greatest. I'll get into it more in the debate round with Tim, but I was elated when brother Tim left me Austin St. John.
All right. Well, 5 minutes, guys. You guys know the rules. Let's get it on.
So the reason more like I didn't pick Austin St. John is, and it's so bad. I'm sorry, but Austin St. John, not a good actor. He's terrible in those shows. Mostly everybody's terrible in those shows, and the people who think that Austin St. John is the best Red Ranger, it's usually because they grew up watching the show. Hey, that's great. I love SpongeBob because I grew up watching it. Doesn't mean it's good. Power Rangers, that version of it is not that good, and Austin St. John doesn't really give it any help, and you probably picked him only because of the nostalgia for it.
Okay, so using what you just said, it just sounds like the argument you were going to be presenting here is that acting ability and quality of the film, which I can agree is obviously with the budget and it being 2008, 17 or whatever, obviously the acting is going to be better with better actors and but that's not what this question is. This question is who is the best Red Ranger? Okay. And Jason is without a doubt, best Red Ranger.
Yes, Jason played by Dacre Montgomery, yes.
When Rita had escaped after 10,000 years in Day of the Dumpster, Zordon asked Alpha to bring him 5 Rangers with attitude. And, of course, Jason is among those, and he is the leader of them. Jason is the leader of the Power Rangers from the first episode until halfway through when he leaves to go on a peacekeeping thing that him, Trini, and Zach were picked for. So, Austin St. John, Jason, great guy already. You didn't have to have the brooding story of, oh, he's the cocky quarterback and he does a bully thing.
That adds weight to the character. And so, and for me, someone who has watched Power Rangers, that couldn't connect to it, Dacre Montgomery made me connect to it. So yeah, sure, they had to do the douchey quarterback thing, but if that's what they needed to do to get audiences to actually connect with something, big audiences to connect with Power Rangers, because I would say that most audiences liked this Power Rangers version with Dacre Montgomery more. More people saw that than saw the TV show with St. John.
Oh, my sweet child. No. Austin St. John and Jason David Frank were the two building blocks of what built the 20-year franchise that allowed a movie to happen, that allowed the 2017 movie to have a box office, because it wasn't great. But you're trying to keep making this into the quality of the show. Everyone knows Power Rangers is terrible.
I'm not making the quality of the show. I'm making the quality of the actor. And
but it's not the quality of the actor that we're talking about. It's not who has the best performance as a Red Ranger.
I'm not saying that, but I'm perceiving best Red Ranger, best all around. So best story in the movie, best actor to play the character, best things for the Red Ranger to do in the movie or in the show or whatever. And in the show, it's the same show over and over again. At least Dacre Montgomery did something different with the character in a movie that was different from the cheesiness that you are presenting.
Which Power Rangers is cheesy. I think what to again use your argument is you're saying, oh, I watched the show and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't sound like you watched the show. It sounds like you've only seen the movie and that's what you're going to pick. So I'll just bring up some of the same show over and over again. Things that Jason did in throughout the 60-something episodes he's in. He beats Tommy. In Tommy's first episode, he ties him. But Tommy uses kind of some trickery because, we're going to start. He's going to be the bad guy. He beats Tommy in a non-suited fight. In Green Candle Part 2, when Rita Repulsa is using the Green Candle to take away Tommy's Green Ranger powers, Jason St. John goes into the dark dimension to fight Goldar without his powers to try and save Tommy. Jason, played by Austin St. John, does you can keep saying, Dacre Montgomery is a better actor. Nobody's debating that. I'm talking about who the better Red Ranger is. Jason was such a good Red Ranger and so pure of heart that when the Tray of Triforias were losing their powers and going to split, and they needed to give their powers to someone so pure of heart, who do they go and give it to? They give it to the returning Austin St. John playing Jason, who would later become the Gold Ranger for the second half of the Zeo season. But that we can exclude his deeds as the Gold Ranger.
Yeah, to me, best means what can people connect to and what can people work with. People obviously are connecting to Dacre Montgomery in this more than this other show because they're getting a sequel. They're doing another movie with Dacre Montgomery.
All right. Now we're into closing arguments. Jim, you are going first. 45 seconds. The floor is yours.
Again, I think Tim is trying to simply make this about who's the better actor, and Dacre Montgomery is clearly the better actor, but we're not asking who's the best actor to have played a Ranger. We're asking who the best Red Ranger is. Jason had fought Goldar 1v1 twice to save his friends. He defeated Tommy at the height of his powers with the Power Sword to save Tommy in the Green with Evil from Rita's curse. And Tim's only argument is that people connect with Dacre Montgomery better, even though we're not even sure he's going to be back in the next sequel that might or might not happen, that Hasbro said is probably going to happen. Austin St. John's Jason launched the whole series and gave it all the legs to last 20 years. Dacre Montgomery is kind of might not be back.
Right. Tim, 45 seconds. Floor is yours.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. To me, best Red Ranger is all-encompassing of what happens in the product as well as the actor portraying him. And to me, the combination of what Dacre Montgomery does as an actor and what was written on the screenplay to bring to the movie is the best. Sure, some cool stuff happens with Austin St. John in the show, but the combined of the acting and the overall, just like what he does in the show, it doesn't match what Dacre Montgomery was able to do to create a reboot of this cheesy show and make it digestible and understandable for a mainstream audience. You couldn't have done that with somebody other than Dacre Montgomery and this version of the character.
All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna go first, and then I'll hand it off to the other judges. For me, Tim had the lead for about a minute, and then Jim really kicked it into overdrive, really giving us some lore on the MMPR, Jason. So Jim gets my point pretty confidently. I'll go to Cody next. Cody, who gets your point and why?
Yeah. I like Tim's approach, but it's kind of like in the way of debate. It has so many holes in it. That's the problem, because the overall question is best Red Ranger, and I know his approach, but I think Jim hit where I wanted the question answered, and I mean, he should have won the Power Ranger question, to be honest. It is Jim. If he didn't, he'd lose a lot of credibility to this community. But that's my problem. I think he argued the best Red Ranger in the character aspect. I think Tim argued a different point, which is good, but it doesn't work for me. So Jim would get the point for me.
All right. Well, Jim gets the second point to tie it up. Brian, your votes do not count, but how would you have swayed?
I think it all came down to the interpretation of the question. One person wanted to know who was the best Red Ranger, like who portrayed him best. The other one wants to know who was the best character, which are both valid interpretations, but it's a matter which one you wanted to argue. I think that Jim explained, he was truest to the character because he was the original, and so he kind of defined who the character was. And then he went off mostly on a lot of like the plot, like, oh, he fought this guy, he fought this guy, he fought this guy. And I get that, but I thought Tim did a good job of saying how the one in the movie was a better character because he had more depth to him. There was, better actors, all that kind of thing. I would give my point to Tim.
All right. Well, that's why we have three judges. You never know how it's going to go. So we now move into question number 3. I believe this is actually the debut of the Fandom Oscars in prep form. You would have seen this in Speed Round versus and Richard versus Buddy. What's his name? So the question for Fandom Oscars is pitch a fandom movie that should have won Best Picture. Jim, we are going to be starting with you. You got a minute. The floor is yours.
I take you back to 2008. This film already has an Oscar to its name for supporting actor, and obviously that is Heath Ledger. I'm going with Christopher Nolan's masterpiece of a comic book film. It's The Dark Knight. I think most of the stuff that I can boaster about The Dark Knight will come in the debating round. So I'm going with 2008's The Dark Knight.
All right, cool. Tim, you got a minute. The floor is yours.
To start, my film that I picked is the masterpiece 2017's Logan. And we want to talk about masterpieces. Logan is the ultimate dark comic book movie. Everyone's gonna complain, the Dark Knight, the Dark Knight should have won the Best Picture. It didn't get nominated, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, but yes, Heath Ledger deserves that Oscar. The movie does not deserve to win Best Picture at all. And I will get into that in my debate. But Logan is an amazing film. And the fact that it wasn't recognized and that Black Panther is getting nominated for Best Pictures, but Logan wasn't, is ridiculous. Logan is one of the best comic book movies of all time, much better than The Dark Knight. And let's get into it.
Well, great movies nonetheless. I've seen both of these. So, left hits.
Yeah, so The Dark Knight, everyone's going to talk about, it's the greatest comic book movie ever. It was back in 2008. But if you look at what was nominated in 2018 alongside what could have been Logan, there's just so many movies that were better and more, Logan was better than most of those movies nominated. And the fact that The Dark Knight, I'm sorry, first act is really good. Heath Ledger's great, but the movie itself kind of falls apart. So while I agree that the performance is great and that deserves a win, the picture itself, it doesn't hold up into the third act, whereas Logan, from beginning, middle, end, powerful performances all the way around, great screenplay, great movie, amazing directing, and that's what you want out of a Best Picture. The Dark Knight has the good performance. It has other good performances too, but it falls apart halfway through the movie, especially in the third act.
The Dark Knight is not as strong. I'm not saying it's as strong, so don't argue this. But The Dark Knight is essentially like The Departed for comic book movies. It's dark, and it's got that crime aspect to it. That beginning sequence with the bank robbery with the Joker, and they slowly kill each other off, and William Fichtner, being like, he's just going to kill you too. And it's like, bam, it's the Joker, and he drives off. But I think with Logan, it also, it's look at the movies that, you argued, okay, it should have been nominated over whatever. I agree. It
over Darkest Hour, Phantom Thread.
I am definitely 100% behind you with that. It should have been nominated over that, especially.
It should have won over The Shape of Water.
Expansion of it should have been nominated over some of those. But everyone knows that the film that should have won last year was Get Out. It was. Like, there is no way that Logan would win over Get Out. Get Out, it's just this masterpiece of a horror movie. I even watch it. I don't watch horror movies. It's like, it's the fact that Get Out is like this completely original idea from the mind of Jordan Peele. And it's like, Logan is the best adapted thing there.
What actually won last year, though, was The Shape of Water. That movie's better than Get Out. Exactly. And Logan is better than The Shape of Water.
Shape of Water is not better than Get Out. I'm saying Get Out. So even if you don't like Shape of Water, cool. Logan shouldn't be.
Do you know what won Best Picture of the year The Dark Knight came out? Slumdog Millionaire. And Slumdog Millionaire is an incredible film from Danny Boyle from beginning, middle to end. The Dark Knight, like I've already said,
like The Shape of Water, where it's just like, oh yeah, this is a great. If you love the technicality of films, it's like, this is such a great movie, and blah 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 blah, and all that good stuff. From Danny Boyle, good stuff. Yesterday's going to be incredible, but we're not talking about that. The Dark Knight, arguably, is better than Slumdog, Benjamin Button, Milk, Nixon. It's just
Frost Nixon.
Frost Nixon, yes. I just wrote down Nixon, but yes, Frost Nixon, these two biopics, and it's like, especially in a time where before they expanded the number of Best Picture nominees, The Dark Knight should have easily been in there, but because the MCU hadn't been around yet, and the
MCU
there was still that stigma. Well, we hadn't had 10 years to build up to it. That got Black Panther.
I don't know. Again, Logan, though, has the performances all the way through. You're telling me that Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart aren't equally as good as Christian Bale and Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight? Because I'd say they're better.
I'm arguing that Logan is fantastic. Patrick Stewart's awesome. Hugh Jackman's awesome in their final. I think Patrick Stewart said that's his final Professor X. He came awesome, but
and it's better than all the movies that were nominated that year.
But, Get Out is just Get Out. It wouldn't beat Get Out. But you only have
the only reason Get Out it was even nominated was because people were like, we want horror movies, we want more, we want more of these types of movies in the Oscar race. We want movies that in this genre, but they completely ignore the other genre, superhero movies. We got a superhero Western movie here that's violent and gritty and depressing, but also just super awesome. The Dark Knight, again, I like The Dark Knight, but it's so hard in the third act. Slumdog Millionaire won that year, and it's better than The Dark Knight.
Slumdog Millionaire, it's a Danny Boyle, it's a great.
You just said you loved his movies and you were excited for his new movie.
Okay, that's not what this discussion is about. I'm saying in the year of Slumdog Millionaire, The Dark Knight was a bigger film for a superhero movie had never been taken that seriously at the time, and that. I
disagree. Batman Begins was taken very seriously.
Been not only nominated, but won over. Nominated over Milk, Nixon. Again, we both have movies that it should be nominated for.
Cool.
Nominated over.
Tim, 45 seconds. Closing argument. The floor is yours.
I think overall, we have to look at the years that these movies came out. And Logan came out in a time when there were a bunch of other movies that sure were good that year. I like The Shape of Water. I like Get Out. But Logan is the far superior movie from beginning, middle to end. Performances, production design, directing, acting, everything just is so perfect in Logan. And The Dark Knight, it is a good movie, and at the time, it probably was the best superhero movie. But to be nominated for Best Picture or to win, no, it's not that good. The performance from Heath Ledger absolutely deserved it, but the movie itself, it falls apart in the third act. Slumdog Millionaire, which actually won, was great from beginning, middle to end, and it deserved to win. The Dark Knight did not.
Time. All right, Jim, 45 seconds. The floor is yours.
The Dark Knight easily should have been nominated and won in 2008 because Slumdog Millionaire, it's good, but it's like, okay, whatever. It's kind of just giving Danny Boyle his thing and stuff like that. But The Dark Knight, had it won, what we're doing now with Logan and Black Panther, like, superhero movies can be nominated for Best Picture because they make a bajillion dollars. They should have done that with The Dark Knight 10 years ago, and then you would have had so much more had it won. If it had won like it should have, you would have been able to have stuff like Winter Soldier get a nomination for Best Picture. Logan would have been taken more seriously and probably could have won Best Picture. But easily Get Out should have won Best Picture last year. Slumdog didn't really 2008.
Boy, this is close. I'm thankful I don't have to go first. I'm passing it off to Brian. So Brian, based on narrative provided, who gets your point?
This is a tough one. Both of them good pitches on why, because I believe both movies should have been nominated myself. I think Jim almost started to lose me when he started saying that Get Out by far should have won, because honestly I thought Get Out was good but didn't deserve to win. So that didn't help his argument. But then Tim lost me when he was praising Slumdog Millionaire, which I was equally unimpressed with. But as far as their pitches for the movies that they did like and pitch, it is very close. I think towards the end, Tim started to do a lot more of comparing Logan versus Dark Knight, why Logan's better than Dark Knight, which is not really the question. He needed to compare it more to why that year it should have won. Jim did a little bit of the same thing, but I think he did a better job of comparing it to the rest of the movies that came out that year and why that would win. So this year, or at this point, I would give to Jim.
All right. Brian, this is where actually you and I disagree. I thought that Tim's pitch was well balanced throughout. I think when you brought it up to his nominating class and just comparing it to the movies that were up against it and the way that he was sort of able to attack Dark Knight versus Slumdog Millionaire, and I think like similar to how you mentioned it, where he compared Logan to the Dark Knight. It's not the prime source for the argument, but I think it's a good point to have. And I think it's that overall aspect that gives me the point to Tim. So Cody, you are the tiebreaker. Based on the arguments provided, who gets your point and why?
Yeah. So again, I have to judge it on basically what was said, not my opinion on the movies itself. So taking what I think about Get Out or Slumdog, that's literally what the question was raised. So they have to find another movie to counteract it, so it makes sense why they chose those. Even if you disagree with Get Out, and if that's what he chose, it was fine. I just feel like the attacks against Logan were good, but I felt like the attacks against Dark Knight were stronger. With comparing it to the year and the Oscar that it was in, Jim mentioned like paint by numbers of Slumdog and blah blah blah. Of course, it would have won, but didn't really, well, that's why it would have beat over it, but didn't really encompass it why Dark Knight should have beat it. So, in my viewpoint, I would have to give it to Tim on this one.
All right. Well, Tim does get the point there to go ahead into the speed round. Alrighty, guys. So now we move into the speed round portion of the match. Tim does have the lead of 2-1. How it's going to work is they drafted the categories, but they did not know the questions. And have a 45-second opening followed by a 30-second rebuttal. Competitors, if I hear you first, you will be going first. Same thing as always. So your first question is from the category of Avatar/Korra, and your question is as follows. From the original Avatar series, what of the main 4 nations is the best?
Water.
I will go with the Earth Kingdom.
Cool. So I heard water first. Tim, you have 45 seconds. The floor is yours.
So I'm picking water mainly because I feel like that nation just you feel like you're with those characters a lot, like Katara and Sokka, and Aang, like they're chilling a lot, and so you kind of get the most from the water benders or whatever that you call them. Like they are the ones you get like the most of throughout the series. So I feel like you learn the most, you carry the weight of them the most throughout the series, whereas Earth, fire, and then obviously air, like you don't really get as much of, so I don't connect with those as much. I feel like the audience in general connects with water the most.
All right, Jim, 45 seconds. Floor is yours.
I'm selecting the Earth Kingdom because it has the single greatest city in all of the world, and it is Ba Sing Se. It was the only city that rejected the attacks of General Iroh while he was waging war as part of the Fire Nation army. Also, the season surrounding Earth has the easily the best episode, which is Zuko alone, as well as Tale of Ba Sing Se, which has the main cast in the city of Ba Sing Se doing all of their little side adventures, and it's actually fantastic. Iroh has the best one. It's his son's birthday, who has died in war, and you find that out at the end, and everyone cries, and it is terrible. And then the ending of the season also provides the greatest when Zuko turns his back on Team Avatar with his sister.
Cool. We're gonna move into rebuttals. Tim, 30 seconds. Floor is yours.
I think that's cool for that season or that stretch of episodes, but overall throughout all 3 seasons, all 3 books of the series, you get the most out of the water people and their episodes, and those 2 main characters, like I was saying, Sokka and Katara, they just like them being together throughout the and with Aang throughout the journey of the show, like that is the most powerful thing for me.
Cool. Jim, 30 seconds. Time words.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Brother Tim's argument is that simply because Sokka and Katara are from the water tribes, the Southern Water Tribe, that it provides the most for the series, which is completely disagreeable. Toph teaches Aang how to see without his eyes, which spoiler alert is how he sees Fire Lord Ozai going to move, and then he takes away his bending at the end. And also, the Earth Nation provides us with Kyoshi Island, which brings us Suki, who is arguably the best non-character in the series.
All right. I'm going to go first, and then I'll pass it off to the rest of the panel. Essentially, what this came down to for me was quality over quantity. Tim's general argument was that we got to spend a lot of time with the Water Nation. We got to resonate with them a little bit more, but for me, I'm giving the point to Jim because of how he's able to sell the quality of the Earth Nation. Like the plot details that he gave sold me. So I will go next to Cody, based on the arguments provided. Who gets your point and why?
Yeah, this was, I think, probably the biggest one-sided of the match, and it's nothing against Tim. It's just, I think Jim knows so much about this world, which is why he picked the category. And he pretty much is in the driver's seat from the get-go, and he put the foot down and just drove it home. So yeah, I would have to Jim by a mile. It's his strength. It's super.
Well, Jim does tie it up. You guys got to get different names. They're too close.
Yeah.
But Brian, your name is not Jim or Tim. based on the arguments provided, how would you have swayed, although your vote did not count?
I think it would have been a clean sweep because I think Tim's argument was essentially Water had more screen time, therefore I liked them more because I connected with them. Whereas, like you said, with the plot details and telling about the best cities and things like that, Jim explained why his kingdom was the better one. So I'd give it to Jim.
All right, cool. So, and it all comes down to this: the final question. We go into the realm of Koho's favorite Disney live action, and by golly, do we ever have a question for you?
Why did you pick this, Tim? Okay.
You picked Avatar, you dickhead.
Yep, pretty much.
Once again, if I hear you first, you will be going first. Your question is as follows: Best Disney live action movie pre-2014.
Sky High.
Sky High.
You said best Disney live action before 2014.
I'm thinking of what's in 2014 that they made that the cutoff.
Well, I think they just made that the cutoff because Jungle Book and
all
that is after.
Maleficent. It was off of original property, not off a remake. That's why we did it.
Story checks out.
Fair.
Checks out.
Go with the Gen Chem special, The Pacifier.
There's some massive ones out there.
How much time do I have to think about this, just so I know?
Start counting them down. This has been a while.
I will never end the match on.
I'll give you the same amount of time that Ryan had to pick a team type member. So like a minute or two. But sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I'm just thinking.
Sky High.
You're going to give him a whole extra minute. I think Jim can change his if he wants to.
I'm going to go with Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
Okay. So we have Sky High
will
versus...
not strike this show from if finally a Pirates got picked, so we're good.
All right, so Sky High versus Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Jim, I heard you first. 45 seconds. Tell us why Sky High is the best live-action movie pre-2014.
Sky High has almost like zero expectations going into this movie, 2004. The cast, surprisingly, is like super stacked. Like Dave Foley's in there, Kurt Russell, I believe Patrick Warburton may be in there. And then the kids are all just great. Danielle Panabaker is in there before Arrow. And the rest of the kids, I can't remember their names, but it's this fun story about kids who go to this superhero high school. And there's the sing bee kind of like clicky type of stuff with the hero class and the sidekick class, and whose powers are good enough for him to be in hero class, whose powers are like not good enough to be in whatever. Will Stronghold is the main character. He doesn't have any powers, hides it from his parents. He gets relegated to sidekick class, and he gets both of his parents' powers and gets to go to hero.
Time. Tim. 45 seconds. 4 is yours.
So basically, Jim just listed the cast and talked about the plot of the movie. Pirates of the Caribbean, you talk about no expectations going into it. There were, people were dreading seeing this movie because it was based on a Disney ride. No one was looking forward to it. Disney even was getting the dailies back and was seeing Johnny Depp walking around like this and were freaking out that this thing was going to bomb. And the thing comes out and crushes. It's a fun adventure movie with a great cast, great swashbuckling action, amazing visual effects, and really took the whole live action Disney thing onto a completely different road. If Pirates hadn't come out and created this massive franchise, we wouldn't be getting other live action Disney movies today. They wouldn't have the balls to do it today if Pirates hadn't worked in 2003.
Time. Jim, rebuttal. 4 is yours.
you have a tumbleweed graphic?
Yeah. Okay.
It was based on a Disney ride. No one was looking forward to it. Disney even was getting the dailies back and was seeing Johnny Depp walking around like this and were freaking out that this thing was going to bomb. And the thing comes out and crushes. It's a fun adventure movie with a great cast, great swashbuckling action, amazing visual effects, and really took the whole live action Disney thing onto a completely different road. If Pirates hadn't come out and created this massive franchise, we wouldn't be getting other live action Disney movies today. They wouldn't have the balls to do it today if Pirates hadn't worked in 2003.
Time. Jim, rebuttal. Floor is yours.
Do you have a tumbleweed graphic?
Yeah. Okay. I think the story of Sky High is this great relatable because everyone goes to high school. Everyone has this. It takes a concept of coming of age and high school cliquiness, kind of like a Mean Girls, but adds the superhero element to it, which I think is really fun for a Disney film. And it's a great isolated story. One movie, bang, there we go, we're done. Pirates of the Caribbean, yes, it did spawn off some live action like big ones, but really the only big ones that I think with Curse of the Black Pearl. Because of that, we ended up getting shitty Pirates ones, John Carter, Prince of Persia, and all that shit.
All right, Tim, 30 seconds. Floor is yours.
Sky High is a fun movie, but it's not a very good movie. Curse of the Black Pearl is a great movie. It reinvigorated a genre. It also just like created Johnny Depp was already a star, but this just elevated him to a whole nother level. It put Disney in a time where a lot of their animated stuff wasn't really hitting. This movie really popped and sparkled for Disney and the world, obviously, because we're now 5 movies into this thing and people are still going to see these movies even when they're not as good. Curse of the Black Pearl is the best.
Time. Boy, man, this is dangerously close. I am thankful I did not have to go first. I am handing it off to Brian because your vote did not count last time. Based on Nerdgasm divided, to get your point and why.
Well, I think early on in the first initial argument, I think Tim really kind of nailed Jim because I was thinking the same thing where he just kind of listed the cast and listed the plot and not why it was the best. But then Jim kind of came back at the end because I thought Tim did a great job explaining how not only was it fun and visually great, but it kind of gave birth to this new resurgence and this bigger, grander scale type of Disney live action movie as opposed to the smaller family things they've been making before. Jim did counter that with talking about, how part of the result of that was some bad ones like John Carter and Prince Persia and that. But in the end, though, I think really Tim gave me the better argument why it was a better movie. So I'm going to give it to Tim.
All right. Cody, I'll go to you next. Based on Nerdgasm divided, do you get your point and why?
What do you got? I hate when you have the judging power because you just throw it around and make me go. But this is I actually don't feel bad for this one because we have been on a call before with Jim and I have talked about this. I think the overall point of it was I think the opening is where it was won for the simple fact is he just listed off the movie synopsis and the cast list and Tim hit both times. Instead of just Jim's closing was phenomenal. Probably one of the top closings I've seen in these communities. But the problem is it didn't have the weight at the beginning because Tim was already swinging and he had to catch up. So I have to give Tim the point.
All right. Which means that your winner advancing on to the semifinals, Tim Brzakala?
Brzakala.
Brzakala. I'm Ron Burgundy. I also would have went Tim. I think Tim did a great job of exploiting a flaw right away in Jim's opening. I agree with Cody that Jim's closing was superb, but I think the way that Tim exploited Jim's flaw in the opening, he was able to take the steering wheel essentially guide the way that he wanted the debate to go, and that really got me. By split decision, 3-2, Tim, you advance to the semifinals. You are taking on a person formerly known as Buddy, what's his name? Nazario Montenegro, kind of the surprise of the tournament. How do you feel about your performance today? I think there's a good back and forth between you and Jim. And then how do you feel about taking on Nazario?
Yeah, to talk about going up against Nazario, I haven't really watched any of his matches, so I definitely will be checking those out to prepare because he's obviously gotten to this point for a reason, so I will not take that lightly. As far as facing Jim today, I did not. In completely being honest, I did not expect to win. When he picked Power Rangers and Avatar, I was like, well, I'm fucked. And those are the questions that I lost. So I really hunkered down and, tried to win those other ones that I knew I was really, really, really confident in. But yeah, he played a hell of a game because every question I was worried about which way it was going to go. Honestly, it's really kind of unfair because he won his two with like no problem whatsoever. And I feel like the ones that I won were really close. So hats off to him 100% because he played a really, really good match.
All right, so now we move on to Jim. Jim, although it was a split decision, I think this was a better performance than you had against Sandy. I think the Power Rangers and the Avatar question, you were able to show why you're great in Nerdgasm. I think it was really just essentially the split decision that was 3-2. How do you feel about your performance today?
I could have been better. I lost, but I picked the two. I feel because Tim picked 3. Tim was the favorite, I believe, coming into this, I don't know how the picking system works, but Tim got to pick 3 of them. I got to pick 2 of them. We won all the ones we picked. So, I mean, I feel like I did because obviously with Avatar and with Power Rangers, I should win those. And the other ones were closer. So, great judging all around. And, even though he's in that terrible faction led by that terrible guy who was a good judge on this one, still got to respect brother Tim and Robert. So he does share a family with Robert. So, nothing bad to say.
Because the loser of Tim versus Brian's match, they retired from Movie Battleground. We don't have an opponent for you right yet, but if we were to give you one, who would you want?
Kaleb Koho to assert my dominance over him yet again in another league and another victory, because the only thing he's beat me in is an IMDb round, and fuck those rounds. So I'd play Kaleb Koho in this. Well, I know he's playing in something else. So whoever other than Kaleb Koho, I don't care who you give me. As long as you just like, hey, playing this, I'll play in it. So whoever you want to give me works as long as it's not
probably. Well, we'll talk after stream. Yeah, but there's
to the surprise of nobody, there's actually a lineup of people who want to kill up Koho's ass. That lineup is consistently 10 deep. That's what she said. Yeah. We are now going to go on to the judges. Brian, this was your first Nerdgasm. How do you feel about the match today?
Well, I enjoyed popping my Nerdgasm cherry. I had a good time. I thought both these guys did a great job arguing, and I liked that a lot of these topics I wasn't super familiar with, so I was able to judge impartially, and had fun.
All right, Cody, co-commissioner, often considered the husband to my wife of the community. How do you feel about this match today?
I feel like this match was better from both sides than their last matches. So I think either one, they took it a little bit more serious, or two, they made sure they were prepped up at least on their questions alone. But either way, it was the way it works. I think moving on, I think Tim has got a pretty uphill battle. Nazario's nothing to sweat with. Me and him have went almost the distance in a debate, and that was his first ever debate. So it's going to be questionable to see how he does. And then Jim, I have a potential person to fight because I kind of want to do like losers of certain. The loser of that faces the loser of that, but I feel like that may be a flippin' slaughter, and I don't know if we need to put that on the internet.
I think I know where you're going with that match, and I almost agree with you. So that wraps it up today for Nerdgasm. Very quickly, we'll do our plugs. So starting off with the winner, the good brother Tim. Where can the nerds of the world find you?
You can find me on Letterboxd, Stardust, Twitter, YouTube, all at Tim Loves Movies. My YouTube channel, Tim Loves Movies, is where I review movies, have movie discussions with my wife Maggie in our show, Tim and Maggie Talk Movies. I have a couple reviews coming out this weekend, so be on the lookout for those. And watch our most recent, Oscars discussion about the post-Oscars. That's pretty fun, so check that out. And be sure to follow me on Letterboxd. Everywhere at Tim Loves Movies.
Cool. To our Forza listener today, El Lobo Jim Green, where can the dorks of the world find you?
Jim is lukewarm on movies, lukewarm on TV, but I watch both. Those aren't handles or anything. I just wanted to say that. And I hate doing plugs. So, Brian's turn.
Brian, where can the geeks of the world find you?
I'm with Jim, not big on plugs, so I'll just tell you I'm on Facebook under my name, Brian Michaels. If you use Letterboxd, under there I'm Cinemaphile. Otherwise, you might find me around here helping out, hosting, and writing questions for movie Warzone, both singles and upcoming teams, and occasionally dipping my toe into fandom, which I'm not quite strong in.
All right. And to that son of a bitch, Cody Newberry, where can the whale penises of the world find you? Another name for a dork.
Okay. You can find me Multiplex, which I might be taking on another responsibility over there. My wife's going to love me. Take 3 Productions, 3 shows over there. Go watch them. Brooklyn will plug them in a second. Watch along. And you can find me Full Metal Geek. Also, you can find me backing Tim Brzakala and Robert the Hobbit Parker. And this will come out after my promo. Cain the Hurricane McMillan and Jake the Maestro Marangoni of the Fellowship. And we're looking to win all the awards again this year because that's what we do.
All right. And I'm the Black Widow of Vail. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at TheRealBK10, the number, not the word. You can find me right here on Multiplex for Nerdgasm on Saturdays with Cody Newberry. Matches drop every Saturday, usually. Take 3 Productions running not 1 but 2 shows. Music trivia, jukebox trivia, and Leno Take 3 Topical Pop Culture Podcast Show, which airs every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So, for Jim, for Tim, for Cody, for Brian, I am Brooklyn. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe on this video. If you think you could take on Tim, can't quite yet. You got to wait until after the tournament. Cheers, guys. And as always,
Drive unsafe.
Drive safely.